Welcome to K-Drama School. I'm your host, Grace Jung. You guys, I will be in Anchorage, Alaska on Saturday, April 8th at 1 p.m. at E Street Theater doing a live recording of K-Drama School podcast. Yeah, isn't that exciting? I'm excited. Aren't you excited? It's going to be awesome. We're going to have very funny comedians from Los Angeles, including me, and we'll be doing some stand-up. We'll also be doing some flashcard questions on shows like The Glory, Crash Course in Romance, and one more, and that's a surprise. I'll let you know on the day of, okay? So if you're in Anchorage, Alaska, or if you're anywhere around Anchorage, Alaska, just come by. It's a free show, Saturday, April 8th at 1 p.m. I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys. Folks, I had a brief moment of freak out because, when I'm booking these flights and tickets and, making bookings for hotels, for my layovers, for car rentals, it's like I'm doing this on my own. It's not like I have an assistant. It's not like I have a manager who's taking care of this shit, and I'm doing it by myself. And I realized, like, I fucked up. Yeah, I fucked up in several ways while booking this trip, Like, I had done this thing on Airbnb and I thought I canceled it. I remember canceling it, but it didn't cancel. And then I was charged $200. Yeah, for nothing. For absolutely no service whatsoever. Just $200 just because they could do it. Just because they can. Just because some words are written on their fucking website. So Airbnb took $200 out of my bank. Again, for no fucking reason. Yeah. And then I thought I had booked a flight for the night of Saturday. Yeah, the 8th. To return to Los Angeles, but it turns out I booked that flight for the night of Friday, the 7th. Yeah, because it was like a 12 a.m. flight. See, so I was reading it as, you know what I mean? Yeah, that was my boo boo. Okay, and that cost me over $400. So far I am $650 in the red for my mistakes alone. Yeah, for the parts that are not my mistakes, those are still, keeping me in the red. About $1,000 in the red without mistakes. Yes. Okay. And then there's also the matter of, eating and, paying for fuel, cost of, whatever souvenirs Grace decides that she needs when she gets to Alaska. Does she need a baby bear? Okay. Does she need a bear cub stuffed animal? Does she need a wolf-shaped stuffed animal? For whatever fucking reason. Does she need those things? I don't know. Maybe. Right? I don't know how much those cost. Maybe it'll cost like $29, $30. Whatever. What I'm saying is, deep in the red for my mistakes for this fucking thing. Yeah. I don't know how it ended up happening, I guess January was a funky time, maybe was I just high? Was I just too high? I remember I was high a lot in January. That might have something to do with it, with my errors and my mistake. Me just, kind of like hitting it too fast, like, as soon as I get the news, like, yeah, you're accepted to the festival, and I just start booking things like immediately, maybe I should have like taken a moment to be calmer, to center myself, maybe chill out a little bit, be a little bit more mindful, and make moves steadily without rushing, right? Because the rushing ended up costing me $650. God, really fucking sucks, okay? That's all I can say. All I can say is that it sucks. But, I just decided, like, am I going to dwell on that? Am I going to dwell on the $650 that I lost? Am I going to dwell on that? Or am I going to just look at it as, okay, this was a bummer. It was a bummer to fuck up. Okay, fine. But at least it's not $650,000, right? I mean, that is like, holy shit, what do you do? What does a person do after they fuck up $650,000 worth? Yeah. At least it's not that. At least it's not $650 million. At least it's not $6,500. I mean, that would have hurt. If it was $6,500, that would have hurt like hell. But it's not. It's $650. And at the end of the day, $650, I mean, as significant as it is, it's also like not that significant, you know? So I'll just fucking chalk it up to the cost of business. All right? Just the cost of business, and we'll leave it at that. Cuz if I don't do that, then how am I going to get through the rest of this evening? Huh? You guys, last week I spent the whole episode ranting and raving about how terrible season 1 of Big Bet is. And so I want to spend today praising a show, a very overlooked show that is very much like under everybody's radar. It's not even on your radar. It's like not even there. You guys have not even seen it, probably not even heard of it. You guys have barely thought about it. You guys haven't seen a single ad about it. You guys are not interested. You guys are not interested in this show that I'm about to talk about. No, because it's over like 15 years ago when the show came out. Yes. No, not over 15 years, about 14 years ago. Whatever. Why does that matter right now? Okay, the show I'm going to talk about is called City Hall, which came out in 2009 from SBS. It is written by hitmaker Kim Eun-suk. We know her. She made shows like The Goblin, Lonely and Great God. She made The Glory, which is a big hit on Netflix. She wrote Descendants of the Sun. She wrote, Lovers in Paris. She wrote The King Eternal Monarch. She wrote Mr. Sunshine. Okay, so she is a showrunner, K-drama hitmaker, all right? But she wrote this tiny show called City Hall back in 2009, and nobody's seen it. Nobody's seen it, but the reason why I want to talk about it is because it's a good show. It is a really good show. Why is it a good show? It stars two amazing actors, all right? Kim Sun-ah and Cha Seung-won. They're both dramatic actors. Neither of them are comedians, but they are amazing when it comes to comedic delivery. All right. They're both weird and zany. They're not afraid to get weird and zany. They're not afraid to express themselves in bizarre ways. They like really get into it. They got the clown spirit. Yes, absolutely. Right. And usually when you're watching these, duo acts, right? Like when there's like a comedy duo, you usually have like the straight man and then the funny man, all right? But in this instance, it's like both of them are weird. Yeah. I mean, it's like who's being straight here and who's being funny? No, they're both being funny. So watching this dynamic comedic duo do their thing, riffing off of each other's energies, it is blissful. It is a total delight. And honestly, if you're not into Korean political dramas, which I am not into, yeah, any Korean political drama, I'm like checked out. I'm like, I have no idea what the hell's going on. I don't give a shit. But with this one, I was absolutely committed. Why? Because I was just waiting. I was waiting for Kim Sun-ah and Cha Seung-won to do their magic, to do their thing. That's all I wanted to see. Yeah. And they have a lot of those moments throughout this 20 episode show. Is it long? A little bit. But it's like you need about 20 episodes to show that incremental growth, like step by step progress, right? Because Kim Sana plays this woman named Shin Mi-rae, who is just a government office clerk at the city hall of Inju City, and she is a nobody. Everybody overlooks her. All she does is make coffee for people, and she's a little delusional, like, but in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way, she like acts very ridiculous and like airheaded, but she's not. She's actually, she's all there. She knows what she's about. She knows how she presents herself. She knows how the people view her and treat her, which is with disrespect. Because they're like, I mean, she's a bumfuck nobody. She has no power. She has no looks. She has no say. Her education's limited, so fuck her, right? But then this dude named Cho Guk ends up in this little town, and he's a politician, and he basically says to her, like, you should try running for mayor. Yeah, I mean, he's got his own political agenda for suggesting this, but he says it to her, and she laughs it off. But then she slowly starts to warm up to the idea, and guess what? She starts running for mayor. Yes, this bitch starts running for mayor against middle-aged Korean men who are way more educated, have way more power and money and status, and they're all laughing at her. They're like, who the fuck are you to stand up and try and be my opponent? Like, get out of here. But miraculously, she wins. And as you're watching the sequence of the way that things unfold in this political arena, you realize actually it's not that miraculous. No, it actually makes a whole lot of sense because politics is so fickle. Oh my God. Like, people just, the way that they get swayed by the press is astounding. The way that they get swayed by just fear around scandal, and it has to do, a lot of these scandals have to do with intimacy. Yeah, it's like, who were you fucking? Who should you not have been fucking? And like when these questions come up and people can't answer it, they end up just giving up their entire campaign. And so I realized, oh, it's really a matter of like how much mud and dirt can you bear on your face? And how much of that are you going to let them, you know, dictate your life? Like, are you going to hide? Are you going to just like hide and just live in a shack somewhere and pretend like you don't exist just because somebody called you out on some mistake or some maybe unsavory thing you did in the past? And like, that's really what ends up determining a person who is going to be a public figure versus not. It's like, oh, I'm a public figure, my face is out there, and am I going to be able to look at my face when people start throwing, shit all over it? Shit, mud, tomatoes, whatever. Am I going to be able to still hold my head up and be like, I know who I am and I know what I'm about, so, whatever you say and do doesn't really affect me personally at all. And that's the thing, like, on the one hand, people say that politics is personal, as in like my political activism and the investments that I have in terms of my values and my principles and morals and what have you, those are personal and therefore I take a political stance here and there. Okay, there's that. But then when you actually look at the theater of politics, nothing is personal. I mean, it's very impersonal. That's what I was realizing. And what sets somebody like Shinmira apart is that she is political and personal, like in sort of an even, cohesive way. Like, as in, she brings her heart to the politics. She brings her emotions and her deep political values, her personal values, like she brings that into the office when she starts working as a mayor. And that does end up biting her in the ass a lot. Yeah. She gets stressed out constantly because people are just like, okay, you're mayor now, but, fuck you. Like, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to show up at your meetings. Right. So there's like a whole nother, you know, like stack of hurdles for her to get over before people start taking her seriously as the mayor. But I don't know, there was something about this show that was just like really moving. I'm like, yeah, I mean, this is fiction. It's fiction, but it is heartwarming. It's heartwarming and it is inspiring and it's encouraging and it's actually not that cynical. It's actually very optimistic. And I fucking appreciate that. I do. I do. We need more of that, right? Maybe I do. I need more of that. It's just because, my brain is always like firing off in different directions that are saying everything that is, I don't know, perhaps more in sync with what the reality that our mainstream presses tend to dictate through headlines, like sensationalist, doomsday headlines, right? And I'm just like, well, when I'm watching a TV show and I make the choice to turn to a certain channel and I want to watch something that uplifts me, well, then I will watch City Hall that came out 14 years ago that did not do very well in the ratings, even though it's written by Kim Eun-suk and stars Kim Sana and Cha Seung-won. Even though these people are extremely talented, maybe they thought that the show was a little boring. Yeah, it is. It is a little boring. But see, there's always a window. There's always a door. Like, there's always a pathway into looking at something with interest. And I think that's sort of the trick and or the magic of anything, If you really dwell on something, no matter what it is, like let's say, for me, like the most boring shit ever is like a political drama or a detective series. Like those things tend to bore the shit out of me. But my window into getting through it is finding that area of interest, which is, for me, in this case, it's Kim Sana and Cha Seung-won's chemistry. Yeah, that works for me. So I'm going to watch it all the way through. And you guys, it's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth just seeing them perform and, create something ridiculous together for a quote unquote political drama. Yeah. And this is not just a political drama, it's also like a small town drama. It's also a rom com. It's also, it's not like coming of age, but it is like coming of into adulthood in a weird way. I mean, Shinmire is in her mid 30s, but it's like she's breaking out of her shell of self-doubt and self-loathing at that age to really know who she is, like truly. Yeah. It's actually kind of beautiful watching that growth in this character. So I think it's worth seeing just for that. Yeah. And you guys, you know what the difference is between this show and Big Bet, which I talked shit about last week? The difference between this show and Big Bet is that this show is actually a human story. Whereas Big Bet, like, I have no idea whose story that was. Like, what kind of human beings are those? They're really, like, that's barely a human being. Yeah, it looks like every single time I talk about a show, I'm just gonna be like, yeah, putting it up against Big Bet. Like, in what other ways has Big Bet let us down compared to the show that I'm talking about today? I think that's gonna be the rest of my life. Oh, $650.